Hello everyone, welcome to today's story. What would you do if the person you love suddenly appeared at your door with flowers, a ring, and a promise of forever? Would you accept, or would fear and hesitation hold you back? When love stands face to face with responsibility, can two hearts truly find their way together? Stay with us until the end of this video to witness a confession that could change everything. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to help us reach 10,000 followers. Your support means the world. The day began with the soft presence of Tuna before the camera, her voice carrying the gentle rhythm of someone who has lived through quiet battles, yet still chooses to greet the world with warmth. She offered her viewers blessings for peace and safety, her gratitude spilling like morning light across the screen. Each word was tender, touched with the fragility of a young woman carrying the weight of both responsibility and hope. She confessed that her journey was still long, uncertain, a path marked by the tiny footsteps of her child and the endless chores of survival. Yet, she asked her audience, almost like a prayer whispered into the wind, to stay beside her, to continue watching. She admitted her videos would not be regular. That time in motherhood kept her from giving as much as she wished. Her eyes flickered with both apology and determination, as though she feared to disappoint but refused to surrender. In those quiet minutes, she was not merely a content creator. She was a woman balancing two worlds, the past that had left her vulnerable and the present that demanded strength. Gratitude became her shield and humility her quiet anthem. Her smile, soft but weighted, spoke louder than words, a heart longing for companionship, yet afraid to claim it. The scene closed in silence, like mist clinging to a riverbank at dawn, fragile, fleeting, yet unforgettable. It was in that stillness that the first seed of longing took root, hinting at the storms and choices that awaited her heart. Morning unfolded with the sound of hurried steps, the clatter of small objects being gathered into a worn bag. Tuna moved gently yet swiftly, careful not to wake her child still sleeping in the fragile calm of dawn. Her hands, tired yet tender, packed clothes and milk as if each item carried a prayer for safety. The air smelled of dragon fruit blossoms and dust from the yard, mingling into a quiet testimony of rural life. She paused before the crib, watching her baby's chest rise and fall. A sigh left her lips, half love, half exhaustion. Soon, she wrapped the little one and carried them to Mrs. Tang's modest home. The old woman opened her arms like a tree offering shade. "Leave the baby here. Go work with peace of mind," she said. Her voice steady, a pillar in Tuna's storm. Gratitude flickered in Tuna's eyes as she handed over the child, whispering promises to return before sunset. The road ahead was long and rough, yet she had no choice. Her words to her child before leaving, "Stay good, let mom work," were both command and comfort, a fragile bargain between necessity and love. Her figure, slim against the bright fields, carried the burden of countless unspoken fears. The baskets she would fill later were not just filled with fruit, they were filled with hope, with the relentless need to provide. Beneath the morning sun, she was both mother and laborer, a woman stitched together by sacrifice. And in that quiet sacrifice, her heart whispered of longing, for support, for tenderness, for something more than survival. Far from the quiet rhythms of Tuna's morning, Alex stood before his own reflection, a bouquet of flowers imagined already in his hands. His thoughts circled around the woman at the farm, the one whose quiet strength had carved a place in his heart. Today, he told himself, he would no longer wait. Today, he would ask her to let him walk beside her, not as a passing shadow, but as a man ready to build a life. Yet the ringing of his phone broke the spell. Miss Land's voice carried urgency. Adam was coming to check the first shipment. Goods had to be inspected, details finalized. The moment Alex had long prepared for collided with the weight of responsibility. His fingers tightened around the steering wheel as he listened, duty rising like a wall between him and the fragile hope he carried. He thought of Tuna, perhaps at that very moment sending her child into the care of another, her hands already red with the day's labor. His heart urged him to go, to appear before her with flowers and a vow. But business did not wait. Adam's arrival meant reputation, contracts, livelihoods tied to his decisions. In the silence after the call, Alex closed his eyes. Between love and duty, he chose duty first, because without it, the promise of tomorrow could not stand. Yet, beneath his composed exterior, a flame still burned, whispering, "Once this is done, I will find her. Once this is over, I will tell her everything." The bouquet could wait, his feelings could not. The sun hung heavy above the orchards as Alex walked alongside Adam, their footsteps sinking into the earth where countless farmers had toiled. Crates of custard apples lined the path, each fruit gleaming with the sheen of fresh harvest. Workers bent low, their hands careful, as if each piece of fruit carried the weight of a season's hope. Alex's voice was calm, professional, explaining quality, quantity, and the delicate process of packing. Adam listened, nodding, inspecting each piece with the eyes of a man whose decisions moved markets. But beneath Alex's steady words lay another rhythm, an unspoken pulse. Every glance at the baskets reminded him of Tuna, of her hands working in the fields, of her quiet resilience. Each fruit became an echo of her life, fragile yet enduring, easily bruised yet beautiful. Adam praised the quality, spoke of contracts and future shipments, but Alex's mind drifted. He imagined Tuna's eyes meeting his, the hesitation she might hold, the tenderness she might conceal. Responsibility tethered him to the present, yet longing pulled him elsewhere. He stood between two harvests, one of business, visible and material, and one of the heart, silent and unseen. The men mounted motorbikes to climb toward higher orchards. The road grew narrow, rocky, yet Alex pressed forward, explaining yields, assuring standards. His words belonged to trade, but his silence belonged to her. With every bend of the mountain path, he whispered a promise to himself. When this day's work is done, I will no longer delay. The deal would feed the company, but only love could feed his soul. Evening shadows stretched long across the floor as Alex stepped back into his home. The air felt heavier now, carrying both the relief of work completed and the urgency of something unfinished. He placed his keys down and opened the small box that held the ring. Its surface caught the dim light, a quiet circle of promise. Beside it lay the necklace, delicate and shining, and on the chair rested the bouquet of flowers he had ordered with such care. He stared at them for a moment, his chest tightening. How strange, he thought, that objects could hold so much weight, not in gold or petals, but in the meaning he had poured into them. The ring was not merely jewelry, it was his vow. The flowers were not simply blossoms, they were a fragment of his heart, offered in fragile form. standing before the mirror. He changed into a fresh shirt, his movements slow, deliberate. He rehearsed words he had carried for months, lines broken by hesitation and renewed by longing. His reflection seemed to ask, "Are you ready to bind your life to hers, with all her struggles and her child's tender needs?" His answer came not in words, but in the steady beat of his pulse. As the last light of day softened into dusk, Alex gathered everything: the ring, the necklace, the flowers. He whispered into the silence, "Tonight, I will tell her. Tonight, I will ask her to let me stay, not as a visitor, but as the man who will not leave." The hour of courage had come. The kitchen smelled of rice and boiling water when Alex finally arrived. Tuna stood over the stove, her hair damp with heat, the child asleep in the next room. She turned, startled to see him holding flowers, his presence filling the small house with a sudden, quiet weight. Why did you bring flowers here?" she asked softly. Her voice caught between suspicion and wonder. Alex's hands trembled as he offered them. The words he had rehearsed spilled slowly, haltingly, each syllable burdened with the courage it took to speak them. He told her how long she had lived inside his thoughts, how he wished to care for her and her child. Then, his voice steadier, he revealed the truth of his heart. He wanted to marry her. The ring glimmered between them like a fragile star, his decision made, his future laid bare. Tuna's eyes filled with 1,000 emotions: gratitude, fear, disbelief. She shook her head gently, whispering that she was not worthy, that her life was too tangled in hardship. Alex stepped closer, his voice low but certain. "Give me a chance. I will take care of you both." The moment stretched, thick with silence. Tuna lowered her gaze, asking for time to think. Alex nodded, accepting her hesitation but promising to wait no matter how long. The necklace slid around her neck. The flowers rested in her arms, and between them lingered a question larger than both. Alex decides to get married to Tuna. Will she accept this proposal? The air held its breath. The night settled softly around the small house, the cicadas outside humming a fragile chorus. Inside, silence filled the room like a tide, broken only by the faint breaths of the sleeping child. Tuna sat quietly, the bouquet of flowers resting in her lap, their petals trembling as if they too carried her uncertainty. The necklace around her neck felt both heavy and tender, a reminder of the man who had placed it there with such trembling care. Alex sat nearby, his posture calm, yet his heart unsteady. He had spoken, revealed everything he had carried in silence. There was no turning back now. Still, her answer lingered in the air, unsaid. He watched her cradle the child, her hands moving with a mother's instinct, her face shadowed by thoughts too deep to share. He wondered if his promise had reached her heart, or if fear had built a wall he could never cross. Tuna's gaze met his for a brief second. In that glance was a storm of emotions: gratitude, hesitation, and an ache for peace she did not dare to believe in. She whispered nothing, yet the silence spoke louder than words. Not rejection, not acceptance, only time. Alex lowered his head slightly, a quiet vow forming on his lips. He would wait. He would prove through patience what words could not seal. And so the story closed not with an answer, but with a question suspended in the night. Was love strong enough to outweigh fear? Sometimes the truest confession is not the ring or the promise, but the willingness to remain.
Tử Na mở lời bằng lời chào đến mọi người, chia sẻ hành trình nhiều khó khăn khi vừa làm mẹ vừa mưu sinh. Mỗi ngày cô gửi cho con bè tăng trông giúp để có thể ra vườn thu hoạch trái cây, trong khi Alex, một CEO bận rộn, mang trong lòng nhiều quyết định quan trọng. Anh muốn cầu hôn Tử Na, tuy nhiên công việc với đối tác Adam khiến anh phải tạm gác lại hoàn tất trách nhiệm trước khi trở về chuẩn bị nhẫn về hoa và dây chuyền. Buổi chiều, Alex đến gặp Tử Na, thổ lộ tình cảm và ngỏ lời chăm sóc hai mẹ con, mong xây dựng một gia đình. Tử Na xúc động nhưng tự ti, xin thêm thời gian suy nghĩ. Câu chuyện khép lại trong khoảng lặng bỡ ngỡ. Câu hỏi liệu cô có chấp nhận lời cầu hôn ấy?